All right, today we're going to tackle a huge problem that pretty much every technical company faces. How do you take thousands, maybe even tens of thousands, of messy, chaotic documents and turn them into pure, valuable intelligence you can actually use? We're going to dive into how AI can build something we call a knowledge refinery to do exactly that.
So let's put you in the shoes of an engineer or a technician for a second. You need one single critical piece of information. Maybe it's a safety threshold, a specific repair procedure, or a tiny parameter. But it's buried somewhere in a literal mountain of technical manuals, service bulletins, and dense regulatory standards. How on earth do you find it? And maybe even more importantly, when you do find something, how can you be sure you can trust it?
So here's our game plan. First, we'll set the scene with the core problem, just drowning in documents. Then we'll introduce the solution, this concept of a knowledge refinery. We'll walk through how it finds quality info, distills it down, and creates a gold standard. And then the best part, we'll see how all this amazing knowledge actually gets put into action. Yeah, this is what we call the data deluge. It's this idea that all the critical, valuable knowledge your company has is technically there, but it's locked away. It's buried under just layers and layers of disorganized, hard to access, and often contradictory information. And look, this isn't just inefficient and frustrating. In some industries, it can be downright dangerous. And the scale of this problem is just mind-boggling. Up to 80% of a typical organization's data is unstructured. You know, that's all the raw text, the images, the tables hiding in PDFs, old reports and manuals. It's this giant, untapped goldmine of expertise that your classic search bar just can't make heads or tails of. So what's the answer then? Well, we need a system that doesn't just search for keywords, but one that actually understands the content. And the best way to think about it is like a super sophisticated oil refinery. It takes in all this raw, messy crude oil, that's your documents, and through this incredible multi-stage process, it transforms it into high-value, purified fuel, actionable intelligence. And this whole refinery process really breaks down into three main stages. First up is sourcing. We have an AI-powered corpus builder that acts like an expert exploration crew, going out and finding only the best raw materials. Second is extraction. We start cracking open those documents to pull out the raw knowledge inside. And third, the really cool part, is refining. This is where we purify, verify, and grade that knowledge for quality. Okay, let's talk about that first stage, because it is absolutely critical. Just like with a real refinery, the quality of your final product, that actionable intelligence, is completely dependent on the quality of the raw materials you feed into it. It's the classic saying, right? Garbage in, garbage out. So how does the system make sure only the good stuff gets in? Well, this slide breaks it down. To deal with all the random noise and duplicate documents you find online, it uses something called an LLM signal hunter and a novelty guard. To stop one source from totally dominating the results, what we call information monoculture, it uses a max per domain guard. And to weed out untrustworthy, low-quality sources, there's a trust scoring system and a content gate that acts as a bouncer, checking IDs before anything gets into the pipeline. Okay, so we've sourced our high-quality crude oil. Now we get to enter the refinery itself. This, my friends, is where the magic really starts to happen. We take that dense, unstructured text from our documents, and we begin this process of breaking it down, purifying it, and structuring it into something that's actually reliable. The basic, fundamental output of this whole process is something called a knowledge unit, or a KU for short. You can think of it as a single, pure molecule of information. It's not just a random sentence. It's a structured, verifiable fact. So it could be a technical claim, the exact steps in a procedure, or a supercritical decision rule, like if the pressure goes above X, then you must do Y. Okay, but here's the big question. How do we make sure the AI isn't just, making things up? This is where the consensus engine comes in, and it's brilliant. Just think of it as an automatic second opinion. As you see on the left, one AI model, the extractor, goes and mines a fact from a document. Then, a completely separate AI model, the verifier, comes in and checks that fact for accuracy. It can confirm it, maybe correct a small detail, or just flag it as noise. This is how you build real trust into the system. The very last step in the refinery is the final polishing. These premium filters are what upgrade the knowledge from being just correct to being exceptionally valuable.
So the banality gate filters out the super obvious trivial stuff. The specificity score gives bonus points for precise details and numbers. The error boost is really clever. It actually values information about common mistakes or limitations, because knowing what not to do is crucial, right? And finally, the density filter measures the technical depth, making sure we bubble the real expert-level content to the top.
So, after all that sourcing, all that extracting and refining and polishing, what do we actually have? Well, we have our final product, a clean, structured, and importantly, graded knowledge graph. This is the gold standard of information all ready to be put to use.
And this quote right here, it perfectly captures the philosophy behind this entire system. The goal isn't just to get rid of the simple stuff, it's to actively hunt for and elevate the most technically dense, the most specific, and the most useful knowledge. You know, the kind of information that actually solves the hard problems.
Now, not all the knowledge that comes out of the refinery is created equal. The final output is actually tiered by quality. You've got about 18% that's bronze. Think of it as useful background information. The vast majority, 72%, is high-quality silver. That's the reliable core of your knowledge base. But the real prize, the crown jewels, is that top 10% of gold tier knowledge. So what does it take to get into that exclusive gold club? Well, a gold knowledge unit is highly actionable, like a step-by-step guide you can follow right now. It's often rare or hard to find information that you'd never find with a simple search. It has a high impact, meaning it could literally change a key decision or an entire process. And it's reusable in lots of different situations. This is the expert knowledge we were hunting for all along.
We've refined our fuel. It's pure. It's high octane. Now it's time to put it in the engine. This is where it all pays off, seeing how this system solves real-world, high-stakes problems in industries like aviation, robotics, and advanced manufacturing.
So let's take aviation maintenance. Picture an aircraft technician. They get an error code on the flight deck. Instead of spending an hour thumbing through binders, they just ask the system and instantly get the exact verified repair procedure. They can check a safety-critical torque limit in seconds, not agonizing minutes. This isn't just about saving time. It's about preventing costly, even catastrophic errors and ensuring total compliance. It's a game changer.
Or let's switch gears to a complex CNC machining environment. A machine goes down, the system can instantly link the symptoms to a root cause that was buried in a maintenance log from 3 years ago. It can pull up the absolute best practices for a specific, tricky material to optimize performance. For a business, this means way less talent time, higher quality parts, and a much faster way to get new operators up to speed on really complex machinery. So what we've really seen here is a journey, a total transformation. We started with the chaotic, overwhelming mess of unstructured documents, and we ended in a state of crystalline clarity, where every single piece of knowledge is structured, it's verified, and it's ready for action. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. If all the collective expertise locked away in your organization's documents, all those manuals, reports, and lessons learned, could suddenly speak with one clear, intelligent voice, what would be the first critical question you'd ask it? Definitely something to think about.